Hello, everyone. This is your host, Manoj Tandon. Welcome to another episode of Dark Rhiino Security Confidential. We have a fantastic guest today. Before I announce him, though, I have to tell you, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps with the algorithms, and it helps keep allowing us to bring all this great content and these wonderful guests to you. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Mr. Henrik Parkkinen. Now, you should really look him up. He is quite a talented individual. He is a globally recognized cybersecurity leader from Sweden, over 20 years of experience in the cybersecurity field, both on the offensive and defensive side. He's helped bridge the gap between the technical aspects of the profession and the decision-making C-suites. We're going to ask him about that, on how get some tips from him. Also, he's received tons of recognition. You know, he's recognized as a top 12 GRC leader in 2025. He's one of the top 10 cybersecurity leaders in EMEA and a finalist for the best cyber blog of the year. Henrik, I don't know how you find the time to do all those things, but thank you for joining us. We're honored to have you.
Yeah, thank you so much, and thank you for having me in this podcast. Passion for it; it's my hobby, and I'm fortunate to love what I do.
That's great. Well, give us a little bit about your origin story. How did you always want to do cyber, or what's the background?
Yeah, it's a good one. I mean, it started, I think, the whole interest for cyber or technology started from a young age. My dad was a technology enthusiast. We had all these, when I was a little boy, all these gaming consoles from the Sega 16-bit up to, I think it was Xbox, the first Xbox, and also Commodore, Amiga, and a PC. So I was surrounded of all these these platforms of gaming. So gaming was, of course, a big thing, and technology was a big thing. But when I went to it was not a how should you say it, a for sure decision that I would go into the security field. My time in upper secondary school was 3 years of studies in economics. So I thought somewhere I should be working with finance of some sort. That was my kind of what I thought. But all the time, I loved computers. I loved gaming. I loved technology. So when my 3 years of economy studies come to an end, my mother found a IT security infrastructure and networking training for 1 year and said, "Shouldn't you try this one out? I think this one should suit you." And I looked at it and say, "Okay, it's only 12 months," and I hadn't applied for the high school either to the economic studies, so I kind of missed that one. So I'm like, okay, I need to do something for 12 months, so let's jump onto this one. So after 12 months, or during those 12 months, I found it to be very interesting, and I wouldn't say I had a talent for it, but I felt it was pretty easy to absorb the knowledge, absorb all the abstraction within the technology field, which came with IT. But my friends, of course, jumping onto IT and IT training, they thought I were an idiot because of the IT boom or the crash of the whole IT scene there around 2000. So I looked like a dumbass maybe for a while, but now here I am. So went pretty good despite.
Yeah, and I was going to say, and you would have gone into, if you would have gone into finance, I mean, there's a lot of Swedish folks in finance, so that wouldn't have been differentiating. This is different.
Yeah. But so that is kind of like the short story there from how I ended up where I am. And of course, I mean, the whole training there was pretty interesting. It was very practical, totally hands-on when I did it for 12 months. So more or less directly after the training, I got my first assignment at one of the biggest IT hosting companies in Nordics at that time, and started to working with identity and access management. Almost the first day when I started that assignment was like, okay, from school, a little bit of pause there in between the studies and the work, but a couple of months there before I found a job. Then boom, started to work hands-on. And it was pretty cool because very much of what I learned in the school was how it worked in the real life. But this was a big enterprise, so it was scaled with maybe 10,000 in comparison to the labs we did. But it was huge, the environment. But it was so close to what we learned. So when I came to the working life, I felt very prepared after those 12 months. So it was very cool to have that like carryover of the actual studies to the working life. So
I have to ask you, you mentioned your training was very practical, and we have a lot of folks early in their cybersecurity career that listen to this program. Would you be able to provide some guidance to those folks as a practical means if they are looking at developing skills in cybersecurity? What kind of a pathway should they follow?
yeah, it's a good one. I think this one is a very interesting question, and I think there are different ways how to take it. But I think now I'm maybe a bit subjective to the way I came into the industry, because I went from the very hands-on pathway. And I would say foundation will serve you endless, like into the infinite. The years I spent in school, or the 1 year, those 12 months, and the, let's say, 10-ish years hands-on, I mean, they put so much foundation into place. And when I say foundation, I think about, okay, networking, infrastructure, TCP/IP, firewalls. Nowadays, of course, now it's cloud, but it's the same principles. You still need to know it. Back in my day, it was server rooms and all that stuff, and like these appliance boxes for networking and switches. But I would say start from there. And the same goes if you would like to go into, let's say, if you want to go into the offensive field, still start on the blue team side or the defensive side and understand how you build the stuff, and then how you will attack it. Because if you know how to build it, you know how it operates, it's much more easier for you to go into the offensive landscape. But there is no must that you need to do it. But I would say spend time on the foundation if you want to become good at cybersecurity. I think the foundational part is so important, and be curious about the hands-on stuff. There's so many good learning platforms today. Don't want to like drop any of the names here, but and the knowledge there, it's almost for free. You pay so little money and you get so much back. At my time, you needed to spin up your whole infrastructure at home or at the work, and then sit there in front of the computer or in that server room, which were noisy as beep, cursing word there. But you kind of need to do everything on your own. Sit there, spend the time.
Right.
Now you have it so accessible for you. So I would say foundation, spend time on foundation, and this one, be curious, be very curious. Start to dip your toes into different fields. If you start to feel like, okay, I have a pretty good idea of the foundational stuff, don't be afraid of like, okay, step a little bit out of that, and maybe take a look into coding or scripting, something to expand your field. Because I think the broadness for a security practitioner today is very important, because the field is so diverse. And if you want to become good at something, you need to find your passion as well. So
Yes.
Why not be curious and test out what works for you? For me, it was very much the infrastructure side, which I still think is very interesting, but this has kind of like transformed from on-prem to the cloud. Yeah. But I mean, I think curiosity will serve you well, and don't be afraid of testing stuff out. That will help you to pivot into different stuff. But I think foundation is critical. And then, of course, networking as well. Have good people around you that you can ask the questions to. These days as well, good people are everywhere. There's so many communities that you can join. So why not try to be a part of a community if you don't have the friends around you? So I mean, so much more than it was when I started. No communities, no people sharing their craft, share their skills or the knowledge as much as today.
So Henrik, that lays out the technical development of it. But there's also another thing that's unique about you is that you studied economics. So you understood business.
Yes.
Now, how most cybersecurity practitioners, I'm probably going to get some bad comments for this, but I don't think they understand business.
Mm.
I don't think they understand how a business operates. If you're going to architect a solution for the business that's a security solution, it's not just technical, right? There's process elements to it, there's people elements. Do you think that there should be business knowledge that should also be part of the training of a cybersecurity practitioner? And if so, how to get it? Is
Oh,
that
wow.
something?
Yeah, wow. This one is good. You're kind of pointing out one of the things which I think many educations lacked. Mine didn't have any portion of leadership or business management within it. It came something that I needed to get when I were within the field. But I mean, if there would be just a little bit of it, how to put the stuff into the mindset or into the business world, I think that would be super good. And that is something I think is so important today as well. If we want to succeed, and if we want to succeed as a security leader, you're pointing out the truth of what I believe is something that much of the educations are lacking today. The business side. I mean, how should you be able to speak the language of the business without actually speaking about security? Being the translator or being the person who understands the business side and can pivot between the disciplines to make sure that you create value for your company. Because in the end, that is why we're here as security people. We are here to support the company. We are not here for a self-existence if we're not selling security products, but that is a different kind of business. But if we are there in a business context, we're there to support others to become successful, not ourselves. But of course, we should be good at what we do. So I mean, and how do you manage it, or how do you become successful? Is if you can't speak the language, if you can get buy-in for what you do, if you can be the person who influences your stakeholders. So yeah.
That's a key one, right? I mean, because without money, nothing really ever happens.
Yeah.
And that, but I would also like, if we stepped up to the macro level, if you're going to be a security architect and plan a strategy, the strategy for a business that's selling beverages versus a bank are going to be versus a movie studio, totally different approaches to how you would secure their environment in many instances.
Yes.
Some commonalities, but the nature of the business is going to dictate things as well, right? I oftentimes think that cybersecurity folks really just focus on the technical parts of the equation, but they're there to enable the business because that's the only reason for them to exist.
Yes.
If you can't make movies or sell a product or do whatever financial deals you do, why do you need cybersecurity? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. And no one wants to pay for it either. No one wants to pay more for a movie ticket and say, hey, this movie ticket is secure. No one wants to pay that extra for the movie ticket or for the beverages. But it's still needed, right? Otherwise, you can be out of business if you don't have security in place. But I think here we're into one of the elements of security which is less spoken about, but it's the contextual aspect of security. Each context where security exists is kind of unique, or should be contemplated, where you place security within the context. As you say, there's a difference between industries or organizations. There's a difference between the people in the organization as well. If you work in HR, or if you're a software developer, work in finance, or if you work in production. Dependent on where you work, the context will shift. And speaking with a developer in the same way as a person within a production industry, it's a different language because they do different stuff. But at the same time, they both could be the victim for a cyber attack, or the person who is maybe targeted. So I mean, what I think is critical is, of course, understand the business, but also be able to express what security means in in the context of your audience, the person in the other end. If it's a software developer, speak with him as a software developer and dependent on what security means for him. But at the same time, use these ones. They're very good. I'm pointing at the ears here. The mouth is very good at communicating stuff, but we can listen and we can hear so much if we ask the right questions to our audience as well. Many times we focus, as you said, there on the tech and maybe miss out on asking the right question to better understand, okay, what do we really need to enable, or what do we need to do to support the business? So
Henrik, you bring up a great point here. Can you give some ideations on like how you would approach a random organization if they're asking you to build a cybersecurity program for them? What might be some interesting questions that should be asked that are never really asked normally?
I would start, of course, from the very very beginning and understanding, okay, what do they do? Reading stuff on their page, making my own research what they do, so that I have a good foundational understanding of what is the business about, how do they make money, where do they make money, where do they have the offices. But also when you speak with them, start to ask the question to them. I think this one is a very good one. Maybe not the first question, but a question that comes, let's say, somewhere in the middle in the interview process or somewhere. It's what does security mean for them? Sounds like,
wow, that's a big one.
Yeah.
You're going to get a lot of glazed eyes. They'll be like, what do you mean?
Yeah.
They're going to say, that means that we don't get breached. That's it.
Yes. And that's a good answer. They say, we don't want to get breached. Okay, why? Then you can ask that question. Why don't we want to get breached? Yeah, because that would be negative for our brand. Then you start to spiral down here and say, okay, so is it the brand that is the most important one for you? Yeah, of course, because we're listed on the stock market. And if we get breached or data leaks or someone steals the stuff, brand damage, our stock will fall down in a multitude. And I mean, the question is hard, but the answer there behind it is very easy to lead out to, dependent on if you know the context, if you know where they operate. You as a security leader, you can start to lead your audience, the organization you're supporting towards understanding, okay, what does security mean for them? For some, it will be, or for many, brand and reputation, of course, but it could mean something totally different. And this answer usually comes down to that, as I said, dependent on where you are in an organization, that will also mean different things. For an HR department,
absolutely.
For an HR department, they might not say brand and reputation. They might say something different related to maybe the people. But the finance might say something else.
But even there, the HR department is there to facilitate the operation of the business.
Yes.
So I'd love to hear your comment on this, but usually when we, like some of the smaller businesses that can't afford talent like you, usually, but they come and ask, well, where do we begin? Usually we say, one way that to approach the problem that you can do internally and you won't go wrong is understand your revenue chain.
Yeah.
And start by really studying that and seeing what elements of that are vulnerable and protecting it.
Yes.
And that is where you dive down the rabbit hole. Now, for a larger company, it's a little bit of a different approach, but for a medium organization, they can very quickly start seeing, well, how do we make money? And that's everything from inventory management to shipping to production to order input. And what are the compute assets involved? What are the process assets involved? What are the people assets involved?
Yes.
And for that, you don't need a degree in cybersecurity. This is something every business could probably do if they are willing to put the time and patience in to build a real cybersecurity. Your thoughts?
Yeah, but I think you're totally right there. I mean, it's a different, different angle to it. And usually one of the questions is, okay, what are your crown jewels? It's the same question, like the revenue stream here as well. What is worth to be protecting? And that is also something to elaborate on with your customer. If someone brings me in, I want to know what they see as their crown jewels. What do they want, or what do they need to protect or make sure is protected? Because every piece of data, every piece of information, every process, everything is not as equally important. Some are more critical and sensitive to the business, some are not. And why not start there as well? When you understand what security means and what is the most important ones, start with the crown jewels. Maybe skip the stuff that is less important. But then I also think everyone, still today, it's strange that this is a thing, but do security hygiene right. Start to do it and do it. I mean,
oh man, that's a topic.
yeah. I mean, we shouldn't be speaking about it in 2025, but pick any security report and we read about it there, or any newspaper on a daily basis, we read about it there. So, I mean, saying to a company, okay, if you should do something, do security hygiene and explain what it means for them, of course. And then scale it to the crown jewels, for example. There are different aspects to do it. And as you said here, like, it also depends on the size of the creature here. A big enterprise, of course, that will be a bit, not maybe harder. The principles are the same, how to achieve to the end goal. But I mean, then you might need a different approach, because the program will be running for a longer time because of the nature of the creature. The change curve is so big. In the end, we have to deal with the human aspect of change enablement as well. So just making a teeny weeny little secure thing here, going from a couple of web browsers down to one, which is hard, and removing local admin rights and enabling two-factor authentication. Three pretty simple things, but in the end, it's the people who are going to use it. It's not, if they didn't have it before, coming in as a security dude and saying it, we're going to lock down your computer here.
They're not going to like that.
No,
they're going to. There's always, but on that one, if they're explained the why behind things and that it won't impact their job, they're more likely to accept it. If it's just a mandate, then they probably will not be so happy.
Yeah.
So it's a few things that come up on that is, what do you do in a situation where, as a cybersecurity leader, the management team comes in and they're saying, hey, look, we have to hit this checklist for some compliance, whatever compliance may be. And can you tell us, how much of they saw a webinar and they said the MITRE attack framework. Well, what percentage of the MITRE attack framework are we covered against? Or they don't know what they're asking, but they're throwing these words out there. How much of the MITRE attack network our framework are we covered against? How much of how strong are we on our compliances? Are we using network segmentation? Tell me, Henrik, if this is all the case, then are we just solidly proof and we're not going to get hit by a cyber attack and it's all good? A lot of companies will come in and they'll ask that. How do you respond to that? Because that doesn't necessarily mean that they have a great cybersecurity program. Those are not metrics that will yield a great cybersecurity program.
Yeah, and I think that there, of course, I've been in those spots, and I think the one thing to do there is to be totally frank with that. There is no immunity for a cybersecurity attack. Independent, if you enable every checkbox in the compliance checklist, you click on every security console, you install everything, there's still this fancy word, the residual risk, which the shit can still hit the fan. And I think you need to be transparent with it and say, it's not about being totally compliant, having everything in place, but it's to make the more risk-aware approach to where should we spend our time. A little bit back to the crown jewel stuff here, but it's very much about influencing the decision makers to start to think about the business portion of security and not at cybersecurity as something that lives in our own little bubble here where we can enable stuff and bring in more people and everything will be good. many think about security in this way, which I think is this is kind of like, we know where it comes from because cybersecurity stems from maybe a very technical field. But in the end, I mean, cybersecurity risk, that is not a thing in my world, at least. There's only one risk, and it's business risk. The cybersecurity risk or security risk or whatever we call it, that is a category of risk. That is something actualizing a bad thing happening to an organization. And we start to strip away the mumbo jumbo security stuff and more focus on the business. Okay, what are you afraid of happening? Tell me, what are you afraid of? Okay, which scenarios is it? More rather that perspective. Then we start to speak the business language instead of saying like, hey, can we segment the network here and click here and blah, 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 this and that. Yeah, that could be an effect, but that doesn't necessarily mean that should be the approach that we take. Or to ensure that we are compliant with something. Compliance in my world should be also a result of that we do security in a good way to a high extent. Then we should be very close to compliance. But of course, there are nuances to it as well. It's not a one-on-one.
Boy, am I glad you said that, because we've been trying to say that. Nobody listens to us, but maybe they'll listen to a world leader like you on this stage and take that one. Because you're absolutely right. Compliance should be a natural outcome of a good security program, not the other way around.
No, otherwise I think that you have focused on not the wrong stuff, but starting to sub-optimize and put security aside for compliance. And being compliant, of course, it's important, maybe for business and from a regulatory perspective. But I mean, in the end, you shouldn't sacrifice security for compliance, and it doesn't always mean one-on-one. It's not always that compliance equals security. But I mean, if we keep ourselves now speaking of us as a total entity within the cybersecurity field, with very many of the foundational security principles founded decades ago still apply, but they're called something different, but they're very sound, they're very smart, they're there for a reason. We still read about them today, but of course we need to put them into the context of the business as well. Make it less about cybersecurity, make it more about the business. And so I would say
that's the crux of it. So yeah. How do you do that? And you're an expert in this. You've seen the threat landscape, the security universe. How do you then bridge that with the decision makers and make it about the business? That is a chasm.
Yes, it is. And the story here, I think the success will depend. It will not always land during one lunch break or during that one workshop. I think that you need time, and you need to facilitate your story and tell it in such a way so that you don't maybe scare people from the very beginning. So here and there, it can be good to have a scary story. But I mean, the most people, especially in the C-suite, they read the news, so they don't need more horror stories of what can happen. But I mean, craft the story in such a way so that they understand. Put the technical mumbo jumbo away, speaking the terms of the C-suite and in their own language. They are not the experts on security. You are, but you need to be the translator. You need to be the translator and explain what maybe that downtime would mean for a factory going down if there is something nasty happening. Put it into context here. Put it into the context of the business. What can happen? What could happen? Is there scenarios you can play out to educate them or influence them so that they can start to take the right decisions as well? Because as we said, you're there to support as a security leader or when you work with security. So if you can make your story closer to the actual business landscape where you are supporting your stakeholders, I think that is how I would do it, and that is how I do it, and encourage everyone to do it as well. Saying that, is it easy to do it that way? Maybe not the first time, but if you practice it over and over and over again, you become better at it. And of course, use your examples there. Use the examples that you have from the news, maybe put them in there. I mean, people are easier to maybe relate to if they read about what happened to one of the competitors as well. Pick an example, but don't go in there and try to scare people out, but be realistic about it. And I mean, transparent.
Tangibility is what, making the cybersecurity problem tangible, the risk to the business tangible, is in many ways what you're talking about. And that is, to do that, I guess you really do have to understand the business a little bit about it, so you can frame the story in that way, right? As opposed to, and we see it every day, people coming and saying, well, we should upgrade our Palo firewalls. Why? Well, we put it in the budget, so we got to do it.
Yeah.
Okay, but how does that address business risk?
Yeah, totally.
I'm not saying don't do it. Maybe that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, right? But totally useless information for me if I would be a decision maker. You come and say, hey, we need to upgrade all the firewalls here and we will sacrifice production downtime, but we need to do it today. That is what we need to do. I would say, hey, dude, why? Why should we do it right now? Why not the weekend? Yeah, because there is one, there is a 0-day exploit. And then what is that? What is a 0-day? Maybe I know it if I read the news or if I'm read into it. But I mean, if we do it that way, if we start to speak about it that way, then we also create the monster or the security animal, which is technical. I mean, can we put it into the context or into what does it mean that we need to do certain stuff to protect the business, to make it resilient? Tell those stories, and just to give an example here, if I would go in to my key stakeholders, start to speak as I do with a pen tester, or battle out some war stories about offensive security or how you can breach a company, they wouldn't listen to me at all. They would say, hey, what are you speaking about? Because they don't know security, but they're so important for me. But those stories maybe make more sense when speaking with a security professional, when I need to have my own team behind me because I see something that we need to do on a long-term plan. There, the technical language maybe makes sense within your own team or with your peers, but maybe not outside of the security team. So crafting your story, and I think it's a bit, how should we say, the storytelling aspect. It's kind of like it's said so many times, but there's so much value to it. Can you tell your story in such a good way so that anyone understands it? When you speak about security or cybersecurity, but even not speaking about it, can you frame it in such a way so that people understand why it's important? And there I think more about the business, less about the technology, less about security. What is the impact of the stuff that could happen? Then there could be different aspects. We need to do stuff on the defensive side. There's stuff that we have tested out from the offensive side. We can play out the attacks maybe if you have the understanding of the offensive side and say, this is how it could happen. You can exemplify them into very, very easy examples or small little processes or visualize it for a decision maker. But I mean, usually you don't need to go there. If you can express it, what it means for you as the decision maker or the key stakeholder, that is more thinking about your crown jewels. Then I think that you have more or less solved the puzzle there. And of course, if there is curiosity, explain for me how an attack could happen. Okay, easy one. Then you go with it. But then you kind of already conquer that hill. If you start to get those questions, hey, explain for me how could this happen? How did the colonial pipeline attack happen? How did this one happen to this one or that?
Now you got their attention. If you're getting those questions, you got their attention.
But it's up to you. I mean, it's up to you as a security leader to get that attention. And if you arrive at that point, then you kind of like, oh, okay, here we became successful because you start to, how should you say here? You increase the awareness and also the interest for the subject. But it's up to you. It's up to you. But you cannot. You shouldn't start there. You should start in the other end. Speak the language with the person in front of you in the context of who or she is.
What are some of the pushbacks you get even when you take this approach, Henrik?
Yeah, one classic one. This one, we have never been hit by a attack. We have never been hacked. This has never happened to us. Why should we spend so much time or money within in security when we can put it in for example, product development, which is our core business? And of course, here we come down to it. It's about risk. How much risk are you willing to take? If some says we don't want to do anything, usually there is maybe we could exemplify or reduce this the pushback here down to 3 simple scenarios. 1, we don't do anything. 0, we walk away and say, okay, you continue from where you are. We know that security hygiene here is at a low level. We have measured it. We have maybe done a penetration test, or we have done a self-assessment, maybe something towards NIST cybersecurity framework or CIS top 18 or something. We have measured. We have some data that we can correlate the decision with saying that we need to do something. But we can still take the decision here together with the customer and say, we don't do anything. Okay, one decision for sure. Always put it on the table and say, this one you can pick it. It's up to you, but explain the consequences. 2, do something. What that means, usually prioritize it based on where do we have the crown jewels? What is the low-hanging fruits? And the third option, do everything. Do everything in your plan that you present to the customer, like everything from top to bottom. Clear every check mark here in CIS top 18 or NIST, but usually that isn't the way maybe to go. I should say the middle ground here, do something, but pick the ones, as we were back there for a couple of minutes ago. Security hygiene, usually it will never go out of fashion. You will gain so much benefit from it. So starting with the simple things, if that is where we find the holes in the boat or what need to be patched or repaired. So I would say, but showcase it also. Showcase it. Explain why security hygiene is important. I mean, we see the breaches, we see the attacks for a reason, because the attackers as well, they take the laziest way in. They don't try to exploit everything. Like if they find one easy way in, you do the same within a penetration test as well. But of course, there you can score more points if you find more holes. But why make it more difficult for you? So I mean, I would say that is one approach which is usually pretty good to explain. Okay, we have 3 scenarios, and explain what they mean. Have a plan for them, come prepared, of course, and explain these 3 scenarios. For you as a customer, it will also mean the following. What is the investment for the customer? They will say, okay, you come in here. Before I started out to work as an employee, it was over 20 years as a consultant. So many times, exactly this question you're asking me, I were faced with. But then one thing to think about for you as a security leader, it's to explain for the customer, what do they need to do? They need to do something, right? You coming there with your crew, or you're running a security program. But what does the company need to do? Can they only sit there and receive the stuff? How much can they receive, or what do they need to pitch in as well? Do they need to engage? To a certain extent, they will need to, because they will be a part of the change enablement, because everything will not be totally transparent for them. So at some point, they will need to pitch in as well. Or they will need to pitch in at the point where it goes into an operational phase, and they will need to operate the stuff that you leave behind you when you go to the next, your next gig or your next customer. So explain what it means as well for the customer. What do they need to do? Because it's for them you do it. So how should we say? Should we say it's not the hidden cost, but the incentives and what they need to pitch in with?
What about using recovery as a mechanism to encourage action. So we know, I mean, we've seen various statistics, but anywhere from 60 to 70% of the backups do not typically work or restore an enterprise or a medium business if it's been hit. So there's often this ideation in their mind, well, we do back up everything. Everything is, even if the worst happens, we're good to go. But in reality, when you look at the statistics on it, it's not a very good number, right? Do you, as part of your exercise, say, well, if you're going to pick the first option of not doing anything, prove to me and to yourselves that you can actually recover by not doing anything.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people might be surprised as to what happens if they really do that exercise. They won't be able to recover.
Yeah. I mean, that is because they don't exercise it. They don't do it. They skip the exercise part. They have the backups, but when there is game day, they don't know how to do it, or they don't know even if it works. But there is also one other element or aspect to this one, which I think is even more critical, or can be at least. It's where everything starts. It's the identification part. Have you identified your assets even? Do you know where they reside? Have you coverage of all the not all the assets, but the crown jewels? Are they covered with the backup? At some places where I've been in my past, when that question is asked, it has been, oh crap, we have this part which we don't back up. But that we realize now when we start to contemplate the question. They say, yeah, we have recovery here because that was one of the questions we went through in the self-assessment. But when we start to scratch the surface and dig a bit deeper, we start to identify that, okay, but the assets, which you said here somewhere when we spoke about the identification and asset management and blah, 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 crown jewels, they're not covered by the backup. They're not, you cannot restore them because you don't back them up. They're not. You don't have them in a secondary or a third place, or the. So it's like something to send to everyone, every organization. Make sure that you identify your crown jewels at least. Every asset will be hard. Asset management, it's a pain for almost everyone.
It's very painful.
Yeah.
And I think even if you can afford the likes of Atanium and can figure out everything that's your network is connected to, even then it's really hard. Really, really, really hard.
Yeah.
But the crown jewels should be something that should be identifiable.
Yeah. And it's pretty easy as well. You kind of know, if I would ask you as well, like, okay, what are your crown jewels in your home? Pretty quickly you can start to mention them, what is important for you, and then you start to like, okay, are these covered by my insurance? Do you have them in a vault if the fire goes or if something bad happens, or if a water pipe breaks, or I don't know, a disastrous scenario happens? But it's very easy when you start there, and it sounds so cheesy and a bit cliche to speak about crown jewels, but it's very, people can relate to it when you speak about it. So I think it's a very good analogy when you say crown jewel. It tends to spark something in the brains of your audience. Those diamonds, they are actually our IPs here. It's IPs that we need to protect, the intellectual properties, the code base here. And then there you go. Okay, how do you protect them? Then you can start to ask that question. We don't back them up. It's stored on the local computers. I'm picking bad examples here, but this happens. We've seen it happen.
It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Even today, that's an example of hygiene, right?
Yes.
Still happens. I mean, we run into companies that haven't changed the default password on some of their databases.
Yeah, classic.
All right, that's a classic. I'm like, I didn't think that still happened, but it happens.
Yeah,
it happens today.
And it will keep happening. I mean, it will keep. And think about it only with the also this one, the shadow IT trend, or whatever we started to call it a couple of years ago, and all the cloud services. It's so easy these days back in the dinosaur age, when I started, not that long ago, but when I started my career, it was a bit harder to, smoosh in a shadow application or spin up a server, because you needed to put it into the rack, into the server room, and then do something about it. But now you can go out and click, click, click. So
2 seconds, you have a server.
yeah. I mean, we'll see more about it. I mean, and only AI is one another topic there. Where
Now, I was going to say, how is your approach changing because of AI? What's that doing to your approach?
I think this is interesting. This one, what I think is interesting here with AI is that I think that we, as an industry, security industry, we're doing kind of like a bit of the same mistake as we did with cloud. We jump on with the opportunistic perspective, which is good. It's good. I'm a pro AI dude. I like AI. Been reading about it and kind of like I'm not an expert on it, but interested in it since 2015, something. But what I think is interesting is that we look at it very opportunistic, jump onto it as we did with the cloud. We jumped onto it. Then after a while, a couple of years, we started to realize, what about the data transfer to a foreign company or a third party company or to another country, or all these laws that pop up? There started to be like the security mindset of something that maybe we should think about what kind of data we place in the cloud for some reason. And now, tada, we're kind of doing the same mistake with AI as we did with the cloud, which is interesting for me that we didn't really learn, or did we learn from the cloud era?
Human nature doesn't change, Henrik.
Yeah,
it never changes. And remember, convenience always wins over security. Time to market wins over quality.
Yeah,
it always.
Yeah, it should. I mean, it should be, because it's driven by business as well. It's driven to enable business or to win the competition. But I mean, it's fascinating that we as security leaders or security practitioners or a community, we have done the mistake once, not so long ago, but now we tend to do it again and again and again. Why didn't we learn from it? Why didn't we? Cloud governance became a big thing there when cloud became a thing, and now AI governance seemed to be a thing where security is a part of it. But it's like a deja vu moment for me. Like, it was not so long ago when this happened, but then it said cloud on this box. Now it says AI on this box. So it's interesting that we maybe don't pick from the learnings when we go into the future, because I think that we know so much about the future that is in front of us. We know what is happening. AI, which came, it came almost as a surprise for many people. Like, oh, now AI came here.
Oh yeah, ChatGPT revolutionized, and look at how quickly it got adopted by hundreds and millions of, and it's wreaking havoc in universities right now.
Yeah. I mean, it's making revolution.
In law practices, it's that genie is not getting put back in the bottle.
No. It's too late, and I mean, we knew it. We knew it. We had it in front of us for so many years. We knew it. Okay, it's coming. It's coming, but we didn't do anything about it. We didn't maybe spend so much. When I say we, security people and everyone within it who were interested in AI, we didn't maybe take action to it. We were kind of like, okay, it will come one day. Then just overnight, boom, we were sitting there, and okay, someone put out the genie from the bottle, and now we're there. We can't put it back. But we didn't really prepare for the future. And I mean, this is not the last time the future. The next day will come, or the future will come and knock on the door. I think that we should spend more time on just trying to forecast. Okay, what is in there in the future?
Well, you remember, there's an old saying, and I forget who it's attributed to, but those who don't learn the lessons from history are doomed to repeat
Yes,
So
yes.
mistakes, right?
History was one of my worst courses when I were in when I were in school. But I heard this one, but I don't know who said it.
I don't know who said it, but that's in fact what's happening right now,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, and I mean, one of my colleagues who I was speaking about this subject with, he said, yeah, but it will be like this forever. His take on it was because we're humans, and as you said here,
Human
Manoj,
nature doesn't change.
history doesn't change. No. And as you said here, Manoj, we are driven from an opportunity perspective as well. If there is something can put us aside from our competitors or enable business, of course we'll take that one. We will take risk, and at the same time we maybe can't contemplate every negative risk, but I would say we could contemplate the future a little bit more, at least try to look in front of us, because we know the stuff that is coming, and we have never been better equipped than now, with the help of AI, of course, but the help of all the collected knowledge out there. Podcasts as you are running here, I mean, where smart people share great info. The info is out there. I mean, we have so much more info and so much data, so we could be better prepared. I don't have a solution for it, but I think it's interesting that we have never been better equipped. But maybe this is an effect of the speed of the landscape. Everything goes so fast. We don't have time to absorb. We don't have time to contemplate, to sit down and think about, okay, what is happening? What will this mean for human mankind, or for my organization, or whatever?
We're gonna, we'll have to have you back 6 months from now and see, or a year from now and see where we stand on some of these. It'll be interesting. But we are at the hour here, and I want to make sure that I give you a minute to plug whatever you would like. Are you any books, appearances, whatever you want to let the audience know about?
Yeah, okay, yeah. Now you're going to try to say something smart here in the end. Yeah, but I would say those who want to pick my brain or want to know more about the stuff that I've been speaking about here, visit my website. I share my stuff for free there. No paywalls, no subscriptions, anything there. So I share my experience and knowledge there. You reach it on henrikparkkinen.com. But besides that, I would say very much thank you to you for having me here, Manoj, in this podcast, and encourage others, other people who have interesting stuff to share, to also to be here, to sit down in a conversation with you, because I think the work you do is so valuable for the industry to share this stuff. I mean, give back to everyone. So
I appreciate that. That's coming from you. That means something. So we'll keep trying to do it. We just want to educate people, and hopefully in the process they walk away a little bit safer.
Yeah.
And that's that. But it's been great having you here, Henrik, and I look forward to having you back. There's so much more to get into.
Of course.
We're just scratching the surface.